I'm not gonna become. I tell myself I'm not gonna suffer the fate of other lonely older people. I'm not like them. Not like them. Not like them. Feel the shock. I'm not like them. When I was 23 and freshly abused in the worst way. Like not everybody talks about abuse. Not everybody talks about it the way I do. I just want to, apologies and requests all around for your mercy and understanding. Because not everybody talks about it. Not everybody talks about it every day, and not everybody gets into the minutia of how it felt. But we're talking about things where your entire life changes, and I don't get to talk about that to anybody. My entire life changed. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe some of it didn't change. I would have loved that, but it did. It all changed, and you have nobody to share that with. I was alone, and my life changed, and I was probably as alone as I would want to be, and I never ever, even though I was there and I made it through, I don't know how I did it. I honestly don't know. I I got a camera from the university and I recorded myself one day and just said, "Hey, I think we need a more conscious society or something, or conscious culture." I called it. It was like I made up my own sort of genre of writing, and you would have generally called it stream of consciousness, but it was like I was becoming aware of like what I was trained to think, that everything might, like the TV that I gave up was not really quite the way I'd been taught to think about it. And what if I just start talking and making up my own words and just trying to be, if I'm lonely, be lonely, and just report what I see from this lonely perch. Like, because I go on car trips with my family when I was a child, and you look around at the passing landscape and you're trying to go to Disneyland and you don't really record everything, and here's your chance. I always wanted to get out on the highway and lay in one of the green things they have between highway lanes or something, and just look up at the sky, or just go piss in a tree. Like, I just wanted to stop the fucking car so my brain could enjoy the earth with my family. Hey, look, it's a plot of earth, no one's going to kill us, let's just sit here for a second. And here, if you're lonely, you have to pay attention to your environment. You're very alert. And I've met people who sleep outside all year long and don't have anyone, and really, and they get a little strange. I mean, they're going to be that way the rest of their lives now. They become hooped. They become um, bushed. The idea of spending too much time by yourself in the wild. Whereas like for the average working person, going camping for a week in the wilderness is like the most refreshing thing you could ever do. It's paradise. But to someone who spends every day outside, sometimes it's heaven, sometimes it's hell. It's not really a vacation, and it is work every day. And it's like a wonderful place to do your work at best, and it's where I do my work for now. And at home, I like to write things. I think about things to write. I thought about something recently, a couple lines yesterday that stuck with me. So I'm like, I didn't quite get them down on paper, but it was almost like back in my 20s, I've got them in my head, which is kind of cool. Another puff, and I guess we'll get going. I feel like a brave boy today. Does that make sense? I feel like a brave boy. It's like, hey, Landon, here's a stone for my brave boy. And I wish my dad was just like, hey, Landon, here's my brave boy. Here's my brave boy. My dad's sense of what I was permitted to be afraid of didn't permit me, a strong young man, an athletic man, to be afraid of all the things that I was afraid of. So just the fact that my own discomfort was not permitted or provided for me in my family in itself is a huge red flag, which bleeds into the many wharfs and woofs of, who's yelling at you and why in every given day, and how clumsy you become. And this is not a stable, healthy environment, but it is your home, and you can honor that. It's your home. You love your home. If I could go back and curl up in my bed when I was 10 years old, you bet I fucking would. That's my home. It's a strong signal, and I want to go through the shock and find my home. Fuck my dad. Fuck my mom. Fuck these people. I want my home back. You know, because they're so not the kind of people I thought they were. It's like you lose your home. You lose your childhood. We say that rather pathetically. I don't think you can. Like, as long as there's a tree on this earth I can lay underneath, I guess I'll never lose my childhood. But it certainly feels like it sometimes, right? But you got to recognize it. It's work. I have to move through the shock. Like, oh yeah, I liked having a home. And my dad would say like, oh, I never hurt you, and I never want to hurt you, and let's go for coffee, and let's go for a drive. Like, my dad, if he walked up to me right now, he wouldn't be harmful. He'd probably just smile, say, hey son, and his eyes would light up because he would be genuinely happy to see me. That's the fuck of it. He would be genuinely happy to see me. You know? I don't deprive my dad of the ability to feel genuine joy and happiness at seeing me or hugging me. But my dad doesn't give a fuck about me. Really. I've disappointed him in every way. He knows that I'm terribly and acutely aware of every time he ever beat me or beat me down, and the role he played in catastrophic injuries to my body, which I don't think he even permits himself to tell himself. And it's not the kind of thing to build my character on. It's like, hey, I'm the kind of son that can go through that and still, says hello. I saw some weird woman make a video about, getting older and you have to pay bills. It's like, as I got older, I had to deal with getting beat the fuck up. That was, I'm a poet. I'm not a street fighter. I'm a fucking dandy. I'm someone who should live in a fucking, UNICEF workshop on chronic masturbation. That's all I wanted to do in life. And I'm not trying to piss anyone off. I'm trying to be honest, right? I don't like to ever pretend to be something that I'm not. I want to wash RVs at your fucking grandfather's RV lot. No, I couldn't do that, but just simple things. We live in this world where people are generating money in all kinds of interesting and inventive ways. And I think I'm not behind the times. I think I'm right on time. I'm right on time. I have something to offer, the truth. And sometimes it's going to be my weird religious beliefs, and sometimes it's the grief of living. It makes us all terribly the same. And I hate it. I hate it. I hate the grief. It brings you back to earth in a way. It doesn't modernize you. It modifies you, though. Sadness and grief modifies you. It's like, oh shit, shock. I've used the word shock day after day because I have to. It's the most powerful word in my life. I go, okay, Leighton, you're in shock. What helps me, actually, is to think of the people listening to this going, dude, what's wrong with you? Because I'm right now in a dimension where I can feel these things, and you are invited or not to want to listen to the general flow and context of what I'm describing and feeling at the same time. This allows me, in deference to your preferences, to also flow and move into different ways of talking so that I can move out of that grief a little bit. And so I can show you, or someone listening, that I can navigate this territory. I'm not stuck in it. The fear, well, of course, the natural fear of hearing someone in a state that you don't have to share with them and sounds, even if it is somewhat provocative, nowhere that you want to be. And where is that for me? And the word I would use to describe what you're seeing then, or if you want to categorize it yourself, is I am in shock. You're watching a man who's going through shock. And he seems rather intelligent in going about calling it that. And if you want to call it analyzing, and what do I think I'm in control of? I study people, and people sometimes you can think like, what are they in control of? What are they trying to control, and what can't they control? And what would they say about that? And we reveal our frustration sometimes in what we cannot control, make mistakes maybe in what we control. And it's tough. It'd be great in the sense that I would never feel mad at anyone if I could just release my sense of needing to control anything. Or if I could control myself, because when I see things that are seriously wrong, I sometimes can't control myself. I can to a degree, but it's just a matter of time before I'll tell you something's wrong. And as long as then my responsibility is to make sure whatever I have done, I now restrain myself and then take not a modest amount of time to make sure that, are you satisfied? Have you done enough? Okay, maybe, yes. Do you really want to, sniff at this dog's leg anymore? No, okay. And, it could take days or weeks to just sort of settle down, because I'm also expressing shock, because if I've said or done something and set a boundary, it's because something has shocked me. And you don't want to shock me in that way. I've had enough shock in my life. I'm not going to let people shock me if I have anything that I can do about it. And it will be people that know you, or people that know your mother or father, your girlfriend. It's going to be people we know that shock us. And so part of dealing with shock is knowing that, there are some, you don't give up your humanity to be in shock, but you can feel how humanity is kind of given up its humanity when you're in shock. And when you see the world, let's say, within shock, or in points of being and walking on this earth, if I say I walk from like a rainbow from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, and I feel different things and I see different things. And if you listen to me all day long, you would see that I feel different things. And see that the wind is coming through these leaves. And that's a blessing. The leaf came down, like, the nature's really loving me, saying, go with that. Good idea. And I go through these different things, and that it helps me to think people may not want to feel those things or think about those things. And in shock, you can see the inhuman aspects of humanity and feel them. And like, you'd rather sit through endless thrillers and horror movies and stuff like that than feel a kind of quintessence of poison in the inhumanity of man, the real vileness, like in anyone or everyone or things in your life where you would permit yourself to think, if only, say, in a thought experiment sort of way, because this is very persuasive, I understand. And you're permitting me to think, so I thank you for that. Or to choose to think provisionally that, there is a kind of inhumanity to people. There is a violence to the turn of their mind. If we're just saying, look, let's put a pin in that. It's important enough, it's serious enough, it's aggressive enough. It may turn out to be this, that, or the other, but it's going to require more thought. We can collect such experiences and think about them and think about what that tells us about people and what we're willing to think about people, to understand something that, if nothing else, I don't think, for me, I don't think a lot of people really have understood. And the people who say they fully understand it are either much, much smarter than me, or maybe just kind of possessed of a kind of demon of their own. Because I think life is always meant to be mysterious, people say, and I think maybe people are always going to surprise us a little bit because they're different than the way we think. And maybe some people learn just to deal with differences in people a lot better than others. And maybe I'm not one of those people. So I'm willing to think things. I'm not sure if I could honestly say I'm going to think that, longer than 2 minutes, but it is a nice thought. It would take a lot of persuading to make me think that I'm just not appreciating people's differences. But I would concede that I haven't had a chance to appreciate people's differences because as one person once said to me, when things go really sour, things can get really black and white really quickly. And when things get black and white with people, that has served me quite well. Then now I'm shocked. I'm like, oh shit, like, I'm seeing a pattern here. And I've tried to limit relationships with patterns that make me feel shocked. It's an interesting way to sort of describe the reason that you could use to get out of a codependent relationship. Because, every relationship on the other side has its stresses. Some people call them violence. Some would say that's growth, conflict. Some people say it's, all constructive and stuff. But when conflict gives you a black eye or dislocates your shoulder, then it's like, it's time to rethink things. And then it's more difficult because you're in a different matrix of meaning. And a lot of that is a lot harder to share with other people. It's like, oh, well, I had a fight with the missus last night. Oh, okay. And they're like, oh, hey, he gave me a black eye and knocked out my tooth, but don't tell anybody or he'll kill me, is a different fucking conversation. Right? So, and I can't speak for the victims of violent crime, but I can speak as a victim of violent crime. And it puts you in a, can I say this? Because I would be insulting to victims, but I'm going to say it because I like to say things that are stupid simple, because you never get to really talk about anything, and you're always worried about what you're going to say, and even victims are going to criticize you, but it really is a very difficult thing. It's like it puts you in a very different position that I would describe as one that confusion. I'm a smart man, and I honestly, if I suffer any weakness of mine, is that down deep in all of this, I am genuinely so fucking disturbingly confused about why people behave the way they do toward me. There's always kind of I could give you a running commentary of what I think and how I pick up human behavior and smell people's energy. And certainly if I was in a better mood, I'm sure I would smell better energy. You can adjust for that a little bit. There's a little, I've been swayed to my sense of my judgment in terms of how condemnatory I might be on any given day. And today's, I'm not in the greatest of moods, for instance, but at the same time, I notice when I'm angry, I'm more likely to say what I think and to I find more or less there is a certain accuracy to my mind when I let myself use my mind and get a little angry and go, I think those people are a little weird. I would say to my girlfriend, it's like those people kind of throw me. It's like, and if she said, yeah, me too, I'd be like, good, it's me too. All right, we can talk about that later. I think maybe she's a porn print. I basically immediately said on camera, I said, they have very sedentary lives. Period. You know, they've gotten into a sedentary job, administrative job, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that they've done it so much, and I know so well how comfortable you could get doing that. Hell, I remember once I volunteered at a bookstore, and it turned into a tea shop. I actually volunteered in a tea shop, and so I ended up sitting in the corner like some sort of 35-year-old blonde-haired mystic, not really, and just drinking cups of tea and chatting with the old ladies for like a year. It was like, and eventually I got cougarized, but I got completely usurped. But and then it led to other things too, but just really weird shit. But I mean, and ladies would say, like, God, you offered yourself up as a free offering. You deserved what you got. But it really took me a long time to deal with this. It was very disturbing, actually. But in any case, I knew what it was like to sit on your ass all day, and I remember vowing that I would never do that again. It was all too comfortable to be served, sour cream and onion bagels because the young Métis French woman working there just kind of liked having me around like a buddy all day long while she's working, but wasn't really acknowledging why or what she was really getting out of that, you know. But we'll just leave that. She was another interesting case, and I would really like smoking a joint with her. She's a very, very attractive person, but we eventually rubbed each other seriously the wrong way. And you know what she would probably say? She'd probably say it's nothing. I forgot about that a long time ago. But I wish she wouldn't. You know? I wish she wouldn't. I haven't had a lot of family in my life, and basically having conflict-oriented relationships with women is the only real intimacy I've ever had. And I know that makes me sound awful, but it's not true. It's just incidentally you could describe it that way. It's not really what I'm about, but I would hope she didn't forget. I helped to correct her. I don't say that in an arrogant way. I mean, I got myself well and truly in a little over my head with this lady in some way or another, but, I helped correct the energy a little bit in a tangible sense. It doesn't matter. I don't need to go into the story. And I found that was a pattern in my life. Women would come into my life and they'd be really fucking messed up, for lack of a better term. And I'm like, there's a few ways you could look at that. You could say, well, they're reflections of myself. Another way you could look at it is like, that's an awful way to see yourself. And, you're not like them. But you could say, excuse me. Actually, right now, I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I'm talking. That's the main thing. As long as I don't come home and have some sort of awful raucous fire. My mom wants me to look for a house every day. What I want to do is what I'm doing. I was thinking, like, this is the most important thing. If I was at Yule Fest with my dad, I'd be like, Dad, guess what I've been doing for the last, 25 years? What, son? I've been out in the wilds trying to become a man and deal with the shadow force of human nepotism and insouciant rage. Great, son. Pull up a chair and tell us all about it. How we have some mutton and ale. Well, in this other reality, Dad, you asshole. Oh, yes, my shadow self. Indeed. How did you make out? I didn't. I ended up killing myself with my own celibate rope. Ah, yes, son. That celibacy gets you every time, but... By the way, your stepsister is home from college. And I think she's ready to rumble. She wants to wrestle you in her bedroom in her pajamas. Oh, Father, please, not now. No, in this reality, it's okay. She wants to. And there's a film crew here as well. Apparently, they pay you for these things. You know, there was no loving in my house. No, there was no loving in that house of mine. My dad would appreciate this. He's into 50s and 60s music. There was no loving in that house of mine. No, 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 no. There was no love in that house of mine. And I've been in a few houses without love. And when there's no love, people, there is no love. Then what are you gonna do when there's no love? You can't have when there's no love. You can't ever sleep when there's no love. You can't ever think straight when there's no love. You can't feel the vision of goodness that would course through your mother's veins and into your own destiny when there's no love. You can't feel your father's pride into all the days of your youth and age from youth and youth from age. No, when there's no love around you, where is the love is gone? When love is gone, woe betide me. Right? What do you do? Well, I'll turn this off a bit.